What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and guys, it is Preakness weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, here on Tuesday, we're going to kick it off with the All Stakes Pick6 on Black-Eyed Susan Friday. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. We greatly appreciate it. And if you guys enjoy the show, please go down below the video player here on YouTube, hit the like button, and hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it because not only is it completely free to do, but it is the best way to help out our channel because it pushes these videos out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. You see our normal podcast schedule is scrolling at the bottom of the screen right now. Tuesdays with Pacific Horseplayers at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, even though we're here live on a Tuesday with Bettin N Boozin. We're normally Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern live, so come join us over there. And Picks and Ponies every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern with Howard, Pete, and Paul. Of course, this Thursday, they're going to cover the Preakness late pick 5, so please tune in for that, especially if you're playing Pimlico this weekend. You're not going to want to miss that one. But guys, we won't bore you around here because we have a lot of races to cover. So of course you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor, all audio over there. So please go rate, review, and subscribe over there if you're more of an audio listener. TikTok and Instagram at Bettin N Boozin Podcast. I will be filming a bunch of stuff for Preakness weekend, including a full Black-Eyed Susan picks, Preakness picks, all the stakes in between. Hopefully we see you guys there. Of course, normal power picks, guys. Please sign up for those. If you want Preakness picks, you're going to have to do that before Thursday night. So sign up by Thursday midday to get your Preakness power picks available. And that's all done through Patreon, patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. And no upcharge for this week. $4.99 a weekend. We'll charge $21.60 a month, which is how Patreon bills it. But of course, you get 4 weekends of the power picks for that price. So please come on over there. Again, $2.12, 840 total picks now. You guys are missing out. Again, they pay for themselves, and you can see previous editions of those power picks before you buy them. Or if you just want to learn more about our podcast, HHHRacingPodcast.com is the place to do so. Also, please be aware that there will be a taped Preakness run through with myself, Noah, Pete, and Howard. We all went. It's a 30-minute episode detailing the exact running of the Preakness Stakes in our eyes. Of course, we did the exact same thing for the Derby. So again, another reason to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when that comes out. But guys, let's get right into the chat here, and I will bring on my co-host from the East Coast of New Jersey, Patrick Kunsel, and from the Ohio State University, now of course back home. And the reason why we are switching to Tuesday this week, Charlie Freeman. Gentlemen, what's going on?
Nothing much. We got a marathon tonight.
Appreciate you singling me out there. I mean, if it makes the viewers feeling better, at least it kind of does make sense with us covering Friday and, of course, them getting to do the undercard stakes Saturday. But no, yeah, Patrick's right. We got a full card, and I know this is kind of becoming a tradition for us to cover Black-Eyed Susan Day.
Yeah, we did it last year, of course. If everyone joined us last year, we're covering now again. And we were going to cover the late pick 5, but I was like, there's a stake race in race number 8, and there is a pick 6 that ends in the Black-Eyed Susan. So why not give that one a little bit short change, and let's cover them all. Guys, thank you guys all for joining the chat. Again, if you guys are here either on YouTube or on X, the bottom right-hand side of the screen, please type in the chat if you guys have picks or anything like that you guys want to talk about. Please post in the live chat. We read everyone and love to put up comments in the chat. Katie, of course, was here bright and early. I'm ready. Gracious that you're here, Katie. Really appreciate you joining. Christopher NG. Chris, thanks so much for joining the podcast again. Greatly appreciate it. After a special, unbelievable Kentucky Derby trip, ready for round 2, dissect the Preakness weekend of racing. I remember you talking that you were on your way to the Derby. Hopefully you had fun. Obviously a special and unbelievable in your eyes, so hopefully you made out pretty well. My mom is here, of course. The weather will be better this weekend. we'll get to that in a little bit. Mom, thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Of course, the boss is here as well. Preakness Over preview, as I talked about, will pop up on YouTube tonight, so check that one out. Tom Espinoza is here. Tanner Hawkins, haven't seen your name in a long time, my friend. Thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Watching the Pacers at the same time tonight. Do need the dub, that is for sure. And I'm sure one guy would be loving to talk about basketball right now. Of course, it's the guy to my right as you see the Go Knicks banner down there. Again, guys, and Steven Vanderbrook, love the hat. Of course we do, Steven. That's why we do these things. Greatly appreciate. This is I got this hat this year when I went to a couple games. So really just sending more money to Jerry Reinsdorf, as I always love to do, unfortunately. But guys, let's get right into it here. The late pick six, or I guess not late pick six technically, but it ends in the Black-Eyed Susan. Starts in race number 8. It's the Allaire DuPont Distaff Stakes, going 1 1/8 on the dirt, and it draws a field of 8. And finally, we have post position numbers and we have morning lines. What a blessed day we have for us. But either way, field of 8, as I mentioned, bringing it up right now, a pretty decent morning line favorite to kick us off in the number 3, Candide, with Irad Ortiz and Todd Pletcher. Second choice, the number 1 to the inside, the Ontario bred Dazzling Move, Jose Ortiz, and I believe newly trained Saffy Joseph Jr. at 4-1. And your third choice is the number 4, Lemon Muffin, for the coach and Nick Juarez. Guys, bringing up our picks right now. Both of you guys are going with the number 3, Candide. However, I'm going with the number 5, Sea Dancer. Again, guys, completely understand your guys' opinion with Candide, but would love to hear exactly what's going to happen in this race. What was your mind, trip wise when you're picking or anything like that? And of course, cheers to everyone out there. Pat, I'll allow you to go first.
Cheers. Candide. Listen, this horse has definitely faced some tough running lines. I mean, you look at the competitors that she's faced. I could go on and on about each race, but I think Todd Pletcher finally finds a spot in here. Where he's actually had some good numbers. This horse, second off the layoff, Pletcher's, at 31%, going the route distance with 4-year-olds and up. And I think in this situation, and this is, getting out of a non-graded stakes, I should pinpoint. And I think that's kind of where why I think Candide is, try to get back on track. I don't know if you guys are, and I know, Charlie, you have her on top. I don't know if you're a little discouraged by the race last out, but I don't know what you saw in the stretch. Just kind of was like late getting on the right lead, and it was just an awkward race. So I don't know what your take was on it, and how confident you are in Candide on Friday.
Yeah, I feel like the fact that Jin won this race alone kind of speaks volumes to how weird of a race it was, Pat, as you kind of touched on. I think for me, that's sort of when I draw a line through. We talk about this all the time when a horse hasn't been seen since the Breeders' Cup, that they typically, need a race, and that can often be an angle to try to play against horses, which obviously would have paid off if you did so in that race, because I know Jin was a huge price. I just think, like you were saying, second time off the layoff, gets major class relief here as well. I also think, if you kind of look at some of those efforts when Candide was going a little bit longer, she has shown the ability to be a little more forwardly placed. You look at the race at Keeneland and the Spinster, where she was sitting second. You look when she was in the Alabama, she was basically just on the lead. So she has some earlier races where she has been able to sit a little bit closer. So I just think Irad will work out a nice talking trip with her. She'll benefit from the class relief, second off this layoff. And this really just, to me, feels like a get-right spot. And I'm guessing, Pat, that's kind of what you thought as well.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and the thing is, guys, I might be completely overlooking this horse, to be honest with you. I've never been the biggest fan of Candide, but she's 9 for 10 in the money. She's been running against much, much better. I feel like that's just the biggest thing that's going to be pointed out here. Problem is that also comes with a massive price drop, and you see 8-5 morning line. I wouldn't be surprised if she's under that as well. But I mean, really, she hasn't really ever shown to run big numbers. She had one at Monmouth, granted, her last time in the listed stake variety, ran a 99 against horses like Honor D Lady, who's actually a really nice filly that came back to run very well after that. But she's just never really shown that big jump to, really high echelon company. And again, listed stakes could be exactly what she needs. However, I mean, when you're going against, I look at Sea Dancer, guys. Last time she was routing, granted, 1 mile at Laurel is routing, but last time she went a little bit longer, she ran a 90, and that's completely comparable to 99% of Candide's races. And I actually really, really like Sea Dancer in this race. I could be completely wrong. That last race at Laurel came off a week's rest, so that doesn't exactly, she didn't run the best in that race. However, I'm not really layering it against her just because of that really short rest. Obviously, Brittany Russell thought that she could run that day, but still ran an 88 buyer against horses like Royal Spa and Regold, who's actually in this spot as well. But I just feel like Sea Dancer wants to go longer. You see these races, the first 2 races in the Brittany Russell barn came at 1 mile and 1/8 and 1 mile and 16th, and she ran absolutely lights out. Again, easier company than what Candide's been doing it at, but you're going to get at least 5 times the price on Sea Dancer than on Candide. And if they're running very similar numbers, Sea Dancer could even be in front of Candide. She's ran pretty close to the pace, albeit that race went 116 to the 3/4 and still ended up closing well. So it's kind of one of those things that we talked about in the Preakness episode that you guys will see tonight. A lot of new, fresh faces in this race that, maybe need to take a little bit of a step forward. Sea Dancer is that horse, but I don't see why she can't take a little bit of a step forward after those 2 quick races back to back, especially with a very similar trip to Candide. And you'll see my best bets later. Little bit of foreshadowing on that one. I have Dazzling Move. Neither one of these guys have her anywhere, so I'll talk about her real quick. That 92 back at Aqueduct, granted going 7. The distance could be the question mark, but not this time. Ran super well in the Royal Delta against Grand Job, who came back to win next time out. Needs to definitely improve, but first 2 in the Saffie Joseph barn, paired up buyers, has every right to take a step forward to that, high 80s, low 90s company. Low 90s might be a little bit of a stretch, but high 80s, that's definitely good enough to get somewhere in the money in this race. And again, another horse that will be 3 times the price and running a similar trip to Candide. I might just be getting a little bit too creative in here, guys. But again, I've never been the biggest fan of the 3. And if a horse is going to be 6 times the price, running very similar trip and numbers, I'd much be more inclined to take a shot on the 5. Pat, you have the 5 in second. You can touch on anything. Say I'm stupid, whatever you want. Obviously, you won't say that because you have the horse in second. And then you talk about Sudden Switch, who you and Charlie both have in the mix as well.
Kyle, I'm really interested in the 5 too. I thought that last race, I know came in 4th, but that was a really awkward start. I'm not sure if you watched that. Kind of, her head was like kind of tilted in the gate. It just got off to a weird start, but finished on with it. And I think is very interesting. At 6-1, and we should get a good price. And then the 8, Sudden Switch for Riley Martin Jr. Yeah, I thought that last race was just really visually impressive. I know winning on the lead, they were moving, but not too quick. I just think there could be another improve here. And if there is, this horse is one to watch. Considering what's gone on, and the horse that came in 3rd in that race actually won last weekend at Churchill for Saffie Joseph. So it does have something there, and I think is interesting as well.
And Charlie, you have the horse in second as well. I loved this horse last time. Funny enough, April 10th was the first time I got a winner at Keeneland after 7 seconds and thirds or something ridiculous. But I love this horse last time. Is a little bit bigger of an ask, but there's not a ton of speed in here, so I wouldn't be completely surprised if Sudden Switch gets a jump on a lot of them.
No, and I love the confidence to take a chance and be this aggressive with her. Second time off the layoff, second start now for Riley Mott, also off the trainer switch from Chad Brown. I thought was really impressive last time. Like Pat said, I understand this horse got to the lead, but, they didn't set crazy fractions, but they also weren't walking by any means. And she seemed to have plenty in the tank too. She wasn't really, she was initially asked by Pratt when they turned from home, but then after she started to kick away, she was just sort of ridden out and looked like she could happily take to more distance. I don't think she needs the lead by any means. I think she just, in her 2 starts so far, the fractions have been reasonable enough that she's happy to take them. She does benefit as well from that outside post. And I absolutely think Junior, who obviously has been in terrific form as well, can sort of just navigate the right ride with her, where if they aren't going crazy fast, I think he's happy to once again take the lead. And if they are trying to push too hard, I think he's happy to sit just off. So this was the one actually I thought, especially, only third time out, if you're talking about horses with upside, this was the one who I thought was the biggest threat to potentially upset Candy, just because we don't know what she can be. She's only had 2 career starts, so she has plenty of room to believe she could step up. And then I'll go into the 4 quickly because I'm the only one who has Lemon Muffin, and there's been some comments about her in the chat. I certainly think with the slop, that could certainly change things and potentially in her benefit. I think she's a really interesting one in that, she's sort of been a money burner. You look through a lot of her starts where she's been bet down heavy for the coach, and she just has not gotten the job done. And then last time really put it all together. I understand that she got the setup, but I also do think to an extent it could be that she did take well to the slop. I mean, you look at her effort at Churchill in the slop, and she ran a nice second as well. So that could certainly change things. Yeah. And I think she's another one that is crying out for more distance as well, as if you look at a lot of her efforts where, she has 6 seconds, and a lot of them have been trying to close and just not getting there in time. Actually, what Katie said in the chat, that was one of my only slight concerns. It is a pretty quick turnaround. But for a horse who I don't think is going to get that much money taken, I wouldn't be surprised if you get every bit of that 5-1 or more. I don't think she's impossible for a piece underneath.
And I'll tell you what, I mean, the coach is definitely no stranger to doing a move like this. Obviously, you'll see it with American Promise in the Preakness as well. She ran on Derby weekend, and she ran very well. And if she's coming back really good in the coach's eyes, look, there's no reason why not to take a shot in here. Although, again, it's a good thing to at least point out that it's going to be a quick turnaround. But guys, we'll move on as we got a lot of races to cover today. I'm going 5-1-3. Charlie's going 3-8-4. Pat's going 3-5-8 in the DuPont Distaff Stakes. Guys, now starting the pick 5 that ends in the Black Susan Stakes. It's the Hilltop going, as I switch over to it right now on Equibase, going a mile on the turf for 3-year-old fillies. Draws another field of 9, so another middling field in this one, with a slightly more lukewarm favorite in the number 8 Obasante for Johnny V and Todd Pletcher at 5-2. Second choice, the number 3 Me Governor for Jose Ortiz and Carlos David. And the third choice is up in the air because there's a lot of horses in this race that are also entered in a race tomorrow at Horseshoe Indy. So you'll see that type of thing go on here, but no rider makes a dramatic return in this race. Brendan Walsh trains the 9 at 4-1 on the morning line, but of course, keep an eye out who runs tomorrow. And you'll see our picks on the screen right now. And going with 3 different horses, Charlie's going with the morning line favorite. Pat's going with the number 6, Pretty Lavish for Irad and Graham Motion at 8-1. I think you'll probably be lucky to get that. However, definitely
half of that I'm hoping.
Yeah, then that's probably more like it. But either way, guys, and I want to mention one thing. There's been a bunch of chatter about it in the chat. It's time for the weather report that we only talk about once, because I know if Paul Hallen watches this, he'll want at least at most 10 seconds on this. The rain forecast is really weird. It's supposed to rain today and tomorrow in the morning. Then Thursday is really like slight chance. It's only 20%. And then on Friday, it was actually 20% as well. Now it's gone up to 59%, but it's very scattered showers. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting, the weather's been shifting all week. And like now I saw Saturday at 70% earlier in the week. Now it's only 22%. So it's going to be interesting to see. Everyone keep an eye on the weather. So I think I definitely handicapped a little bit for a little bit of moisture, at least on the turf for sure. But Charlie, I'll let you talk first. I know the Sugar or whoever else is in the background is going nuts, but you do have the morning line favorite. Obasante, Todd Pletcher brings this one up from down in your South Beach range, where he's still running this horse in, past the championship meet, which some take as a concern. Others say that Pletcher just likes to run horses down there a lot, and he's winning very well down there, so he's taking a shot here.
Yeah, I ended up landing on this one. I thought the effort last time out was pretty impressive. You don't really see a Pletcher horse typically at 20-1 on that turf sprint, so that kind of, made me a little concerned, but I just think the reality is a lot of that reason was she didn't want that distance. She wanted further. And I thought last time was pretty impressive. Was saving ground on the rail. Edgar Zayas gave a pretty decent ride, but then I was sort of just waiting to see where that explosion was and like how nice it would look. Because, we talk about this. Sometimes it really is a nice kick, and sometimes it really is just, the horse is fading backwards and not really moving and running in place. But Obi Asante, she was absolutely flying down the stretch, had a wicked leg kick, and that just really caught my attention. And again, I think part of the reason she sat as far back as she did was because Zayas wanted to save as much ground as possible and not, go out of his way to go 3 or 4 wide just to sit a little closer, and he trusted he had the horse. So I don't think she has to sit that far back this time by any means. I think she can work out a nice stalk and trip, has plenty of upside to take a step forward. And I just felt like with some of these others, I've just seen enough efforts of them, or I just haven't seen quite as big step ups or even slight regressions. And I just don't really think there's a horse in the field that has as much upside besides maybe the 9, who we'll get to in a moment. But also, as you said, there's questions if the 9 will even run here.
Right. And obviously we'll get to that in a little bit. I'll talk about that probably at the end with your last 2, because you have 2 horses we don't have anywhere. Pat's going with the number 6, Pretty Lavish. And I know you feel pretty good about this one. I like that they took a shot, obviously, in the Florida Oaks, running against horses like Nitrogen. Might have a little bit of a tough time there, but there's definitely no Nitrogen in here.
Yeah, definitely not. And I wanted to kind of find out, maybe why Graham Motion, put her in that spot in the Florida Oaks. And he did say, on Pimlico's website when they did an interview, that he just thought that that race first time out for him was just very visually impressive. And I would agree. That late kick was unbelievable going a mile. And yeah, he would admit that put her in way too deep of waters there. I mean, you look back at that race, and that is a loaded race. So I do think that, she has that going for her. Did have a little freshening up, got her put in some nice works. And Kyle, like you talked about at the top when, kind of explaining this race, I'm hoping to get half of what her morning line is here. But I do think this horse is right in the mix, and we'll need that fast pace, which time form does state there should be on the front end.
Yeah, and I'll show that, of course, in a little bit as well. I think you'll probably get at least a little bit of a price because she is a little bit light just based on buyers alone.
Yeah.
But still, it's Graham Motion, it's IRAD, a ton of Irish breeding in here, especially if it's wet. You're not going to get that 8-1 price, although that would be very nice, of course, for you, Pat, on the top end. I'm going with Play with Fire, guys, and this is a very soft pick for me, I will say. I actually really liked her last time and didn't end up getting the job done for me at a mile and a 16th. I actually really think she'll be better at a mile. You can go back through a lot of her races, and by the 16th bowl, she kind of starts fading back a little bit. So I think the mile is right where she wants to be. Brendan Walsh picked this spot after going to Keeneland. Lots of different places that he could have gone with this one, but shows up in this spot. Losing to Ramsey Pond last time, who ran a 77 in that race. That might be good enough to win a race like this, maybe low 70s. So, but she has that debut 83. And that's the one thing where I'm just like, what do we do? Is she going to come back to that? Or, there's so many different questions for me with Play with Fire, but I'm hoping that you're going to get at least a decent amount of enough price to take a chance. I don't think you'll get 6-1. It's Walsh and Pratt, of course, with an 83 in the back. And the back end of 2024. However, I'm hoping to get at least 4-1. That'd be good enough to at least to take a chance with Play with Fire. Pat, you also have that horse, and then I'll let you talk about Me Governor a little bit, and then we'll go to Charlie to end this race.
Yeah, and Kyle, I thought that last race, she did get caught up in, a fast pace, and going that distance in the stretch, took the lead, and just wasn't able to obviously hold on. I do think, going the mile here should sit that stalk and trip. And I'm right with you. I mean, I had a tough time separating Pretty Lavish and the 2 Play with Fire.
I couldn't agree more. Me Governor is going to be definitely the pace of this race. However, as Pat hinted, there's looks to be a pretty decent amount of it in this race. They do have the 3 on the lead, however, designated by a fast pace with the 4 and the 5. Both have been on the lead and have been on the lead in pretty fast races before. Both are listed as tracker and mid-pack, which is actually very interesting just based on from Time Force standards. However, if Me Governor does to get the lead, definitely a threat on the win end with Jose Ortiz aboard. Charlie, wrap it up a little bit. You can talk a little bit about Say No More, but again, you have that cross entry into tomorrow at Indy. So again, keep an eye on that race. And obviously you'll see if they don't run there, they're probably going to run here. But Sign Work, first time over the seas for Brennan Walsh. Coming over from you too, that I know you don't necessarily like Euro's first time out. So this is a little bit a showing of confidence from you in this horse.
Yeah, again, I think also just for me, I thought the 8 is just the clear top pick in this race. So I was just looking for horses with upside. Yeah, last time out was really impressive. Was the entire race, won at a huge price at 40-1 and came rolling late. I think the one concern I have outside of it being first start in the U.S. is also that she needs every bit of this distance and maybe more. I think that was a big reason she put it together last time at 1 1/8 is she needed all of the distance possible to get there and go by to win. But I think she absolutely can fly late and get up for a piece. But again, we'll see if she's there. And then going into the 1, look, maybe I'm a little biased with Princess Attitude because she was the last leg for me she was part of a leg for me that hit a nice turf pick 3 for me at Keeneland when I was rolling there.
Bingo.
So maybe that's part of it as well. But on a serious note, I genuinely think she's one that's starting to put it together and really figure it out. I like that Luis is back aboard. When I watched some of her races, I know my Gulfstream horses pretty well, and it felt like last time dropped the hammer, just got a perfect trip, and there was just no going by. And then she ran into a decent amount of trouble in that race 2 back at Gulfstream, and I really just felt like if she could get a clean trip and Luis could get her in space, that she could put it all together, and that's exactly what happened last time out. So I'm just looking for upside here. I get that her numbers aren't great, but if I'm getting a horse at 15-1, I think she's absolutely worth a look to use underneath to get some more value with the favorite.
I remember you and I were talking about Princess Attitude for a little while in there, and you and I both ended up cashing. You a little bit more than me with the turf pick 3 versus my win bet at 3.5-1. However, Princess Attitude definitely could outrun her odds at least at 15-1 in the Hilltop. I'm going 2-8-3. Charlie's going 8-9-1. Pat's going 6-2-3. Guys, moving on to race number 10, and that is the Miss Preakness Stakes. I switch over Equibase right now, going 6 furlongs. 3-year-old fillies again, but a full field of 13 in this one, showing on your screen now. Very lukewarm morning line favorite, which I thought was really interesting with the number 12. Vodka with a twist. Mike Smith filled the motto ships over here at 7-2. Second choice, the number 6, Stunner for Flavian Pratt and Brad Cox at 4-1. Third choice, the number 8, Echo Sound Saez and Russie Arnold at 5-1. Guys, moving over our picks right now. Charlie's going with the number 6, Stunner. Pat's going with the number 4, GW's Girl. And Pat, even though I usually like to go to the person that has the morning line favorite, none of us have that horse, or you have the horse in second, Charlie has the horse in third, I have the horse nowhere. So feel free to talk about GW's Girl, and then if you want to go into the 12, you feel free, you can. But I'm glad I have this horse in second.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to see. GW's Girl, that last race she did not like the slop at all. And that was clear as day. And I just am going to put a line through that race. And if I look at the other 2 races on the dirt, the Dixie Belle at Oaklawn, and then the beginning of the new year and the Mockingbird, this horse ran very, very well. And I don't see why this horse can't, rebound from that race and pick up the pieces in here. Won't be coming from too far out of it, as I say, pick up the pieces, but we'll be right there. I do think GW's Girl has a huge shot in here, and will definitely be playing this horse pretty strongly, as has been right there and figures to be at a square price.
Yeah, and the problem is, and then I think you'll agree with this, if it comes up raining on Friday, horse it completely changes the fact, right?
For sure. Yes,
okay. I'm just.
They might even scratch her, to be honest. After watching,
I would not doubt it, to be completely honest with you. And Howard agrees with us. Top choice is no particular order. 4, 8, 12. Love the pick, Pat and me. Even look at that. I even got a little bit in there. Toss out the last. If it's dry Saturday, she's a big threat. So Howard's in the agreement of if it's dry. I really do like GW's Girl, and I think she's a major player. 12-1 might be a little bit of a stretch, just because I think people will see the same thing we're all seeing. However, still should get a pretty square price on the number 4, GW's Girl. Charlie, you have Stunner on top. And I know, haha, funny. I love this horse last time at Keeneland and couldn't connect as usual. But she's been working lights out down there since that race. Now shows up here. And she's done well with pace pressure before. However, it looks like based on time form, she's gonna have to deal with it again.
Yeah, and I just think Pratt's going to put her in the right spot and get a nice stalking trip. I mean, look, last time was first off another mini layoff. She got hammered down in that day and seemed like, the no-brainer in that race. Obviously, was one of the two that really ran on well in that race at Gulfstream 2 back. And then, the horse who she lost to in Verity, I know had a bit of a weird trip last time out, but, still honestly ran an okay effort. And I know you and I both needed that horse to run better, but I think we'd agree Verity still looks like a horse who has a nice future. So it's not like she's losing to nobodies. For me, though, I will say I think this is a really tough race to decide with her because, dare I say, Kyle, I know you've had her more than I have in the past, but I feel like this could almost be like a divorce papers race. It feels like she really needs to sort of put it together here, or if she doesn't really get the job done, then you start to wonder when it'll happen. I think she sits just off the speed, gets a nice trip. I think the cutback to 6 could help her have a little more in the tank because you could see in her last 2, she hasn't quite had it to finish when they get, to the very end for home. I think with Brad Cox and Pratt working well, puts her in the right spot. I think she's going to sit just off and go by turning for home.
Yeah, and obviously the horses she lost to was Eclaton and Verity in the last 2, and I think Verity is actually a really nice horse. Just I was on Verity last time too, and just wow, what a weird ride that was from that race. But 46-3 at Keeneland is absolutely no joke. Last time on May 8th, so if she's ready to go, she can definitely be a player in this race. But again, the pace scenario is going to be the question mark, and that's actually funny enough why I went with Echo Sound. And one thing I will preface this, guys, is that I really like this horse. However, I don't like Rusty Arnold off a layoff as much. You can see on the screen it's 7%. If you look, I believe it's like 167 days. So it's almost 180. You look at those stats. Those stats are not much better. They're about the same 7% over the last 5 years, maybe closer to 10%. However, this horse looks to get a fantastic trip, and she was 3 for 3 at 2 before running into impulse buy. And if she can sit right out the pace, and if she's ready to go, she makes all the sense in the world at this 6 furlongs. And, a horse like Stunner, little question mark going to 6. Is she still going to have it going a little bit faster with other speed in this race? Echo Sound, the only question for me is she ready off that layoff? She was running, that 84 at 3 is good enough, or 2 years old, is good enough to win this race, let alone her maturing and going to 3 years old. So I think Echo Sound is a very major player if she's ready, although I think this is a very tough race. But 5-1 is probably good enough for me to take a shot in a race where I'm not too sure about the other favorites in here. The 12, guys, is kind of the last horse we need to talk about before we move on. Patrick, I'll let you talk first. Charlie, feel free to add anything on. Vodka with a Twist. You want to talk about a horse that's really kind of weird and inconsistent. Granted, this is going to be second time at 3 years old and has every likelihood to improve.
Yeah, she does. And, she gets back to the distance that I think, we can say she prefers. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the running lines with Candy that we covered in the first leg of our sequence here, just facing much tougher.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the elephant in the room, and I don't know if Charlie, I'll let you talk about this a little bit more. The speed figures do not make her a clear-cut favorite in here, right?
Yeah, no, not at all. And I feel like the big concern I do have with her, again, as you touched on and Christopher pointed out in the chat, the main reason I even have her in the top 3 is simply the cutback. I just think second time off the layoff and getting her back to that distance with the pace scenario, she can get a piece. The problem is for a horse who, as you pointed out, has been running in a lot of fields, is probably going to get bet down for that. They're going to see it's D'Amato and Mike Smith. They're going to see the horses that Vodka with a Twist has run against. And I think this horse is going to get over bet. My main concern is, unlike some of these others where, with the 4, there was that excuse race, and where Stunner, the 2 races we were saying she probably could have gotten it done, but it's not like she ran a bad figure, and it's not like she's had as much experience. My concern with Vodka with a Twist is she's run, I know it's second off the layoff, but she's run a lot already to only be 3. And look, maybe that's part of it is she was fatigued and now she takes that step forward. I just think there's a lot of question marks. And the flip side could be it also just is who she is her ceiling is a high 70 buyer. And the problem is for the price you're going to get, I don't really want to find out. I think the best case scenario you get is 4-1, but that would almost make me, if I liked her, not want to touch with a 10-foot pole because she should take money. I think more realistic if she goes off probably as the favorite or second choice at 3-1 or 7-2, somewhere around there. And to me, I wouldn't want less than like 5 or 6. But at that point, she's dead on the board. I just had to put her in third because I think she could get a piece, but this is a horse I don't want anything to do with.
Well, I'll tell you what, Pat, though. I mean, this is her first time turning back since, fall of last year. And all her all her sprint races have been exactly what this field has run. So I don't think she's necessarily completely out of it, but there is a lot of run up because at Pimlico, the 6 furlongs, I believe, is actually run out of the little mini chute that's out there. But the 12 post doesn't do her any favors, but I do like her on the turn back.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you, but I just found, when handicapping this race, it was hard to, pinpoint her as a clear-cut favorite in here and trust her.
Oh, yeah, I don't think there's going to be a very big favorite in here at all. And Vodka with a Twist, probably based on who she's run against, is definitely the most likely favorite. However, you're going to get prices no matter where you look. And if you like Vodka with a Twist, 3-1, 7-2 is probably not bad at all to take a shot with a horse on the turn back. However, again, the post does her no favors. I'm going 8-4-6 in the Miss Preakness. Charlie's going 6-8-12. Pat's going 4-12-8. Guys, moving on to race number 11, and is the very one stakes, and it's time for my favorite part of the day, the flat 5 turf sprint, ladies and gentlemen. Full field of 14 to make it even better, with 2 also eligibles that are both MTOs. So technically it's a field of 12. My apologies, with the number 3 Pleasant Embrace and the number 10 Mudslide both entered in as main track onlys. However, the morning line favorite based on the main body of the field, and a decent one at that for a very big field, is number 9 Loon Cry. Pratt hops aboard for Clement at 9-5. Second choice is number 14 all the way to the outside, technically the 12 post if it's run on the turf, with Paco Lopez and Asmussen. Accomplished Girl at 3-1. And your third choice is the local-based horse Bossarati, Sheldon Russell for Brittany Russell at 9-2. Looking at our picks right now, Charlie is the odd man out here going with the number 9, the New York bred Loon Cry. Pat and I, we're kind of lockstep in here, even though we don't have the same top picks so far during the day. We both have number 2 Bossarati on top, but Charlie, you are going with the number 9 Loon Cry. The thing is, this is a flat 5, and it's basing on the time form. She's going to be pretty far back, but obviously, if the pace heats up, she's definitely the one you want.
Yeah, this is a very soft pick. Kyle, again, you're not alone. I do not like these races at all. This is one where I would spread if I played horizontally. To be honest, I'd probably just go the Kyle route and play some, pick threes and doubles and try to avoid this race at all costs. That being said, this horse on numbers lays over the field. The concern is going to obviously be, as you touched on, Kyle, can this one get the distance? The shortest effort that you can see it remotely recently was at Saratoga, going 5.5, and the horse did get there and win comfortably. So that's a positive, as well as that race was actually on good turf. So again, if the weather becomes an issue, that could also work in this one's favor. The only reason I really ended up landing on her on top, aside from figures, is just the connections. I just trust with Clement with Flavien Prat aboard, that if there's any, combo I would really want or trust, where at this short of a distance, I actually believe the horse can get there and that they know what they're doing with her, it is Loon Cry. I truly think if they felt that she couldn't get there in time and there was no way she could get there and that it isn't going to be enough setup or that this is going to be too sharp for her, I think they would have just found a race elsewhere to run her at 5.5 or 6. It's not like there's no other races they possibly could have run her. I also just think it's kind of interesting that it is off that layoff, which makes me maybe just think that with the way she was working, that they felt that maybe she was showing a little more speed in those workouts and that she could be ready for this step. Again, I think there's certainly a lot of questions with a lot of these, but just on pure ability, she's definitely the most talented horse in the field. So in these kinds of races, I'm just going to default to that.
Yeah, and Pat, the one thing, man, is that I honestly don't think, especially with our top pick in the race, I don't know if she completely lays up. I mean, Bossarati has 86s in there as well. Granted, a lot more sparse than Loon Cry has it. But the other thing is, like, Loon Cry, Christoph he's not stupid. He's run this horse at 6, at 7, at 6, at 6, at 6, at a mile, at 6. And this horse now shows up here off the layoff in a flat 5? It just seems really weird to me that this horse is in this spot. Granted, probably the most talented horse in the race just based on numbers alone. But in a race where this horse has never ran a flat 5 and has never shown the speed to run, within 7 lengths of the field at going 6, what is she going to do at 5? It's just, that's why I don't have her anywhere in the money. Again, I completely get it why she can run, but it just seems way too sharp for a horse like this.
Yep. And I think the boss said exactly what I was about to comment in the chat. How can we trust, Kyle, this horse as a dead closer in a 5 furlong sprint off this layoff? I can't.
But the point is, like, the horse can win, but 9-5 is way too short of a price to find out.
I would agree with that with the one who has her on top. Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all, by the way.
And I think that leads me into why I'm more inclined to play the 2, Bossarati here. I do think, listen, that last race, that was just not too pretty. But what I will say is this horse, when on the lead and breaks well, is as courageous as they get. I think she's just ultra consistent. And Brittany Russell, I mean, listen, she loves this. This is her hometown. This is
her circuit.
Yeah, the horse loves the distance. And it has shown it at Pimlico. So I mean, listen, I'm not gonna tell you I'm too confident in this race at all, but I do think Bossarati is kind of the clear cut, at least my clear cut top choice in here.
I couldn't agree more with you, Pat. You said it exactly like I thought. Brittany Russell, by the way, off a 180-day layoff. If you're just taking the stakes out of it, you're looking at 45 for 153, and for you non-math majors out there, that's 29% on the win end over just off this long of a layoff. Granted, could go down in stakes company. I actually didn't end up looking that up, but as you said, Pat, this horse gets very brave on the lead at 5.5, let alone here at Pimlico and at the flat 5. The last 2 races she's ran, granted, a much easier competition, the first 2 she ran at, she won with flying colors, however, or she crossed the wire first, with flying colors. Then she ran back in this race last year and didn't run very well. However, she had a lot more pace to run with, I think, than what she has to run with this year. And if Bossarati gets the lead in this race, that's a very big look out for me in here. However, I went to number 14, Accomplished Girl, in second, kind of for the same thing, although the post does her absolutely no favors. But the thing I like about Accomplished Girl, Charlie, she doesn't need the lead necessarily, I don't think. You can look back in her races in the Kelly Memorial at Fairgrounds at 5.5. She sat just off the lead, but you can go even farther back to Fairgrounds on the Panzeretta, where she ran 2 lengths off. So she has shown the ability to rate, which is why I have her in second. But this is another one, 3-1. You might even get less than that in this race. That might be a little bit too short for me to take a shot at it. Such a wide open field, especially with the 14 post.
Agree. I mean, well, again, and to me, this is not a great betting race. Granted, I will say we do have to acknowledge, I think with the 2 AE scratches, I think this would actually be the 12 post.
Correct.
But
yeah.
I don't disagree with you. She actually would have been my top pick in this race if it wasn't such a bad post that makes me nervous. She has some really impressive back numbers. She's proven more at this 5.5 to 5. Okay, there goes Kyle, distance, which gives me some excitement as well, Pat. I don't know if you had the 14 where, so I'm curious what you think as we wait for Kyle. But so I think the horse makes sense. It's just the price and the post position are some concerns for me. And then I will, as this is loaded, I'll briefly touch on the 12. Simply Stated is the other one I have in here. And I just think she's interesting because, again, she doesn't have some crazy numbers by any means. But at that Gulfstream Race 3 back, I thought she ran pretty game there and did a solid job to run second in some pretty hot fractions, which makes me think that she could get the 5 furlongs. And you're going to get a price, and I would say this is a race to go price shopping in. I also thought last time for Trombetta to have the confidence to throw her in that race, which just looked like a massive step up, and clearly the public felt the same way going off at 56-1 and running a nice third. I just feel like this is another vote of confidence of they took a big chance last time and she ran huge, and they don't think that was a fluke, and now she has a chance to reload here. And again, for me, this would be a complete spread race. So I think if you are looking for a price, the 12 makes a lot of sense.
And the thing I like about the 12 is the fact that she has that run over the flat 5, and she did run well and actually showed a little bit more speed than what she has in the past. So Simply Stated, I think, is definitely one to be at least considered underneath. Pino's little girl, no rider's getting a ton of love today. That's crazy.
How Pat landed on this one.
I know. Yeah. No, you got the weight break of no.
Do we know?
No
is she supposed to be running somewhere else? Like
no, I just don't. I don't know what's going on here. But of course, she has to improve based on speed figures, Pat. But running the flat 5.5 at Laurel, she's running pretty well.
Yeah, I thought so. Listen, I'm just throwing her underneath because I do think if it's not honestly, if it's not the 2 or the 9, in my opinion, I mean, I know you guys do like the 14 a little bit. Yeah, I think this could be bombs away, and I do think she does prefer the turf. I mean, buyers may not indicate that, but watching the races, I think she does. And I know she's won on dirt here. And then the other thing I want to just point out has nothing to do with the 7. If Kyle didn't show back up, what a shit show would have been if Charlie and I had to finish this end of the show. I just had to point that out because that would have been, we would have had to call in the bullpen and gotten the boss from the chat because that would have been pretty bad.
Yeah, well, no, just we would
have been a great. We would have had a great time. I was already getting ready to toss it back to you. I just naturally knew how to host. We're good here. We couldn't show any races, and we would have to just tell them everything, and I would probably go on a 30-minute tangent. But other than that,
that's kind of what I was getting to.
That's the number one reason why I'm here is to corral that guy at the bottom. Gift of Gab, guys, same reason why I kind of mentioned it. He's going to sit a lot forward than number 9, Lundgren. You're going to get 10 times the price on this horse versus the other ones. Local base connections can run big if the pace does heat up, who I have in third. But in the very one, I'm going 2, 14, 6. Charlie's going 9, 12, 14. Pat's going 2, 9, 7 in the very one. 2 more races left, guys. Starting, and the one before the Black Eyed Susan, of course, the feature on the card is the Pimlico Special Stakes. It's a grade 3 going 1 mile and 3/16 for 3-year-olds and upward. As I show the field right now, the morning line favorite is, of course, one after my own heart. The number 7, Pyrenees off the layoff for Jose Ortiz and Cherie DeVoe at 8-5. Second choice, the number 8, Star of Wonder, Pratt and Brad Cox at 7-2. The third choice, the number 1, Phileas Fogg, Kendrick Carmouche, and Gustavo Rodriguez at 5-1. And before everyone jumps on me, I don't even have the horse on top. None of us do, funny enough. I'm going 1, 7, 8. Charlie's going with the number 9, Red Route 1. That's a funny pick in his mind for what I know about Charlie. Patrick is going with the number 8, Star of Wonder. Charlie, I'll let you go first just because you have the longest shot of the 3, and then we'll continue to go through the field. Look, Red Route 1 is a very polarizing horse, and just the total of the horse racing community. He's run huge races and he's run major duds in races as well, but he runs well with a lot more distance, and he obviously ran in this race last year, ran 4th to actually Pyrenees, who won this race last year, but again, should get better with all the distance.
Yeah, I think it's going to take nicely this distance. And to be honest, I'm kind of glad to see that we all don't have Pyrenees on top, because I think we'd all agree, the Pyrenees is realistically the most talented horse in the field and the one to beat. But for me, it was just the price concern and the layoff concern. I want to try to, beat that one here. So I landed on Red Route 1. And like you said, obviously it being out a gun runner is going to want the distance. Ran in it last year and ran decent, have some massive buyer figures that fit. And then, turned 5 and it looked like maybe those efforts were just to the past, and then popped that 98 2 back and won very impressively after being, I get that it was a hot pace, but still to be that far off the pace and then to win that convincingly going away was certainly impressive. And then obviously last time, granted, was a much bigger price and, running against some really nice horses like First Mission and Banishing, who came back really nicely, was just too tough for that field. But I don't think it all is impossible in this spot. And for me, in some of these earlier races, whether I really like the favorite or I just haven't really found anyone else to land on. So in some of these earlier races, I've picked some shorter prices. This was one where I actually found some longer prices that I thought at least had a reasonable chance in here. So, yeah, I'm taking a shot on Red Route 1. Like you said, certainly is a polarizing horse, certainly is inconsistent here. That being said, again, I like the added distance. I really keyed it on. I knew Howard would say something along those lines.
It's true though.
I don't really. But to me, that it's more so what Kyle pointed out. I didn't really land on this one just because it's a pure closer. Part of what I did key in on was that this horse ran in this spot last year and ran pretty damn decently. So at least I know that the horse taken to the distance of this track before and ran a decent effort.
Yeah, I mean he did, but Pat, I don't know about you. I've never been a fan of this horse ever, and I'm not. And again, Charlie, I completely respect it. I'm not starting today. That's just
what it comes down to. I will say I would love a video camera on Charlie for this race, watching this horse break out of the gate and it just be miles back, and
then he flies for a solid third.
Yeah, but he's a cool horse. Yeah, he is a very fun horse. I mean, listen, this horse is how much does this horse make? 2.1 million.
Yeah.
But I do. And Kyle, if you don't mind, I'll go into Star of Wonder. The 8. Listen, I think last out. This is obviously pretty ambitious. Where they're going. But I thought that last race, considering did not break well, and that was off a layoff. I thought that was a perfect starting point. And the trajectory here should be, well on its way. I think, Brad really likes this horse, and I'm hoping, this distance this horse should appreciate the distance in here, 1 mile and 3/16. We'll need to improve a little bit more, honestly, but I don't know how far back the horse really wants to be or needs to be, and I don't know what your opinion is on that, guys. As Charlie, I know you don't have this horse anywhere, but I do think Star of Wonder could take another step.
I mean, I just showed the start of this last race too, man. I mean, look, this is the 2, boop, right to the dirt and gets off slow. And then you go back here. He's ranging up inside. This horse is extremely talented, Pat. I have the horse in 3rd. I was about to pick this horse on top. I really was as well. You can see coming up the inside,
which is
gets a perfect trip, but had this trouble at the start, and it really just beats Castle Chaos, another one of Charlie's favorite horses. Seems like we're saying that more and more nowadays. But this is a half to She Dares the Devil. If you remember, of course, that the Kentucky Oaks winner from 2020, super talented. I find it really interesting that Brad puts him in a 1 mile and 3/16 race, even after the disappointing effort at 1 mile and 1/8. But obviously, those last 2 races have been very, very good, and thinks he can class up. But I think with Pratt, Cox, Windstar, all of this together, he's just going to be he's just going to be overbet for me in this race. And if I think he's very talented, and I think he's definitely a win candidate. It's just a matter of, I think he's just going to be a little too short of a price for me. I'm going with the number 1, Phileas Fogg. Guys, this is one that I've also really never been too big on. I just think he gets a lot of easier setups. However, that last time, guys, was very, very good. And I think very, very telling for me. Got a perfect trip in behind the speed because what's his face? Mama's Gold just thought, it was a 5 furlong race and expected to get out there and then finish 7th. I don't even know where. Might still be running to this day. However, Phileas Fogg, I think, showed a very different side to this horse last time. Sat back, and what I think is he's going to show this again, because if you go to the time form here, guys, it's a pretty fast pace. You have Encino, who's super fast out of the gate. Awesome Aaron, who's also super fast out of the gate, with Kendrick Carmouche on the inside. I would love to see him take back, sit right the pocket, which is what this horse basically did last time, get a clear run at the top of the stretch. He has all the stamina in the world. Medaglia Estern, who's Medaglia Doro, more than ready mare. Horse can run for miles. Just let this horse run. Get a clear run at the top of the stretch and show what this horse has. You're going to get 3rd choice on him. I really, really like Phileas Fogg in this spot. And you know that, especially when there's Sharita Vo runner in here, I have to feel at least pretty strongly about this horse to take him over Pyrenees. And I think Pyrenees is actually a very talented horse, guys. Last year won this race, the Pimlico Special last year, ran in the Stephen Foster, lost to Kings Barnes, then came back in the Jockey Club Gold Club and lost to Highland Falls. The the running lines on this horse go on and on and on. Before the Kingsbarns loss, you have to go all the way back to losing to Banishing, who's obviously a very nice horse nowadays as well. He's very good. Cherie DeVoe is also good off of these types of layoffs. However, not exactly the greatest. She's 17% off of this type of layoff. And Pat, I know you looked this up too, but when she comes back in these graded stakes races off this layoff, she's definitely not the best. She's not the best in these stakes race spots.
Yeah, I think what do we have her 2 for 22 over the last 5 years, if that's correct. Yeah, and I think one of the wins is with She Feels Pretty, who just won the Modesty. Yeah, so I think this is the spot to beat Pyrenees, but is ultra talented. And Kyle, you nailed it. I do think this horse could use this race as a stepping stone to a big race in the summer, probably in Saratoga.
And this is my one thing the fact that this is the time to beat him. And if you're going to beat him in a long distance race, this is the time to do it. So playing against Piers in here with Phileas Fogg, although we're all very similar in this race. Obviously, Charlie has Red Route 1, but the rest of us, Charlie has Pyrenees and Phileas Fogg in there. I have Phileas Fogg, Star of Wonder. Pat and I have the same top 3. I think it's a very good race between the 1, 7, and the 8. Personally, obviously, you have horses like Encino in here that I already mentioned, very fast out of the gate, and ran a 99 Beyer, but last time on Time Form, guys. Obviously, Beyer, DRF and Time Form, sponsors of the podcast, very gracious to them. And I love this product, this Time Form US product, because on this show, we talk a lot about comparing speed figures, right? This, based on Time Form, this 129, guys, is huge. I mean, between Time Form and Beyer, there's usually a 15 to 20 point discrepancy on average. I mean, you go off even 20 points, that's a 109 Beyer based on Time Form's age. And the fact that it only shows 99, obviously there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. Same can be said for Phileas Fogg. He got a 126 Time Form last time, but only got a 98 on Beyer. So very interesting discrepancy in this race, but I think it's a very good betting race. And if you like someone other than Pyrenees, you're going to get paid. And our Stephanie brings up a good point. As Charlie brought up earlier, the Breeders' Cup bet against angle here coming off the layoff from the Breeders' Cup. That could be one reason to play against Pyrenees as well. And Siggy Mendoza, my friend, Siggy Mendoza. I love the fact that he's still joining, one of our longest supporters, and he does his own stuff. Very happy to see you here, Siggy. Says, although he is winless in 2-turn races, Just Steel has a shot against that weak field. Horse is getting better. And the last time in the Churchill Downs, ran well. Granted, it was at 7 furlongs. Ran in the Preakness last year at a mile and 3/16. Obviously didn't run very well, but has run well at a mile and 16th in the past. And Siggy thinks this horse has a shot. So, Siggy, you're going to get paid if you pick this horse. And good luck to you as well, my friend. I just think there's other horses that might have a little bit more upside, like my number 1, Phileas Fogg. But again, Siggy, thanks so much for joining, man. Always love to see you here. Going 1-7-8. Charlie's going 9-7-1. Pat's going 8-1-7. And guys, before we move on to the Black Eyed Susan Stakes, it's been a long show, and I greatly appreciate everyone being here. If you guys haven't already and you guys have enjoyed the show, either on X or on YouTube, if you're on X, please come over to YouTube after the show, or right now for that matter, as that's our main way of presenting these podcasts to you. Please hit the like button to show us that you guys are enjoying this show, and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any further shows from either us or other members of the podcast. Of course, we greatly appreciate. And of course, if you want our picks, our power picks, our price plays, spot plays, pick fives, everything to be successful to crush Preakness Day, head on over to patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. The link is in the description here on YouTube. Only $4.99 a weekend. You get all that information on how to crush your bets on Preakness Day. So please get that done if you guys are interested before Thursday night. So moving in to Black Eyed Susan, guys. Race number 13 on the day at Pimlico of 14, of course, but this is where the pick 6 and pick 5 both end. It is a field of 9 this year, and it's not the most stellar field, I will say, of the entirety of the group. And this morning line, guys, I don't know if you guys thought the same way. This morning line was very, very puzzling to me just off the bat. The morning line favorite is the number 4, Runnin' and Gunnin' for Jose Ortiz and Asmussen at 5-2. Second choice is the Margie's Intention. Flavian Pratt, Brad Cox, those two are going to take money at 3-1. And the number 8, Amarth, Luis Saez, Eddie Keneally at 4-1, your third choice. Pat and I are both going with that number 8. Charlie's going with the number 3, Margie's Intention, but none of us have the number 4, Runnin' and Gunnin' anywhere. So you guys can touch on that as well. And you guys know, if you guys don't know, or are new to the podcast or whatever, I don't handicap with any morning lines. And I sent these guys the program before the morning lines even came out. So they didn't have morning lines either. This was very, very puzzling to me. But Charlie, I'll let you go first, as you are the odd man out here, going with the Brad Cox, Flavian Pratt connection, win Star Farm again with Margie's Intention.
Yeah, I just think she's ultra consistent. I think outside of her debut, every single one of her efforts fits in this field. I know the buyers aren't showing much difference, but to me, visually, she is getting better. She hasn't run a bad race. I think she's very versatile and tactical, and she can happily sit right off. I think if they go too fast, she can take a little further back. I was literally about to say what Howard just said in the chat. I don't think this field is particularly strong, so I think there's a lot of ways you can go. I am stuck 4 as the favorite. I feel like, the only impressive thing she really did was, to run 9 lengths and change behind Quiet Side and Simply Joke. I don't think she ran well. I just think she got that buyer because she ran third to 2 really nice horses. The one thing I do also want to key in on this 3 that I think just flatters the form even more is you look at her 2 narrow losses. Kyle, and Blue Flyer, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe that horse ran second in the 8 bells.
I'm pulling up right now.
I think Blue Flyer was Blue Flyer was a decent price and ran second in the 8 bells. So to me, like, you're just looking at the form, and that's the only horse who's defeated her in her 2 starts since, the maiden, where it was clearly too short and didn't go well for her. And I just think that shows that, again, not only has she been very consistent, but also that, in her 2 defeats, she lost to a very nice horse who, that 84 buyer for that one would absolutely fit in the spot. And she only lost by a length. And in both those starts had, to chase down Blue Flyer, who got, quite honestly, in my opinion, watching the races, a better trip and setup in both those efforts. So I think she makes a lot of sense here. I like the consistency. Obviously, the only knock is the price you're going to get, and also we'll have to see what happens on the switch from Walsh to Cox.
Yeah, and obviously that trainer switch, you can take it as you will. Howard says expecting a move up on the 3 with the small trainer change, meaning in talent, of course, but Margie's Intention going to take money. I think this one will end up being your morning line favorite just based on connections and the fact that she paired up buyers at 78 last 2 times, Pat. But she has all the right in the world to win this race. However, you and I are both going with number 8, Amarth. Last time out in the Ashland, didn't run the best. I think she was a little bit in tight, a little bit weird of a spot. However, losing to Lacara and Take Charge Milady. Take Charge Milady obviously had that foot issue during the Oaks weekend, which kind of take me off of her a little bit, but she ran second only by 3/4 to Drexel Hill, who came back to run second in the Oaks. So I think Amarth is actually very good in a spot like this to take on the Black Eyed Susan.
Yeah, you hit on most of my points. I thought that Ashland race gets a complete line through it. I'm not going to look too much into that race. And in the Busher, I thought off a little bit of a layoff.
First time at 3 too. Yeah.
Yep, she ran very well. Fairly well. And will be able to kind of dictate her own pace in here. Now, listen, I know the 1 1/8. We're going to have to wonder, but I'm not. Right. I'm not concerned, to be honest with you. And I love Louis getting on this horse here. I think he's going to have the perfect ride from off the pace. And I think she's got just as good as chance as the 3 in here. Hoping the 3 doesn't move up too much, right. Being in the Brad Cox barn now, because we know he, as you hit on Kyle, he does pretty well getting those horses. But I'm very excited to bet the 8 in this race.
Yeah, and I mean, me too. And 4-1, I think we'll probably get every single bit of it. Last time on the Ash, the one thing you mentioned, which is the distance is going to be the question for her, but she has run super well at a 1:16. She ran well in the Busher at a 2-turn mile at Aqueduct. So I feel like that's definitely needed to point out that even though it was a mile, it was 2 turns, and losing to Drexel Hill, who again came back to run second in the Oaks. There's definitely no horse like that in this race. This is a very soft rendition of the Black-Eyed Susan. And that 78, Pat, as you mentioned, was first time out at 3 years old. And granted, Rand didn't run very well in the Ashland last time, but if she can take a step forward off that 78, she makes every sense of the word in here. And Amarth is definitely one of them, and she's working very well too for Eddie Keneally, who doesn't usually work his horses that fast. 47-4 on a wet fast track, which could, if there's rain, that could bump up her a little bit as well based on workouts. And then, of course, ran the 1:04 bullet workout on May 9th at Keeneland. So working super well into this race, should get a very good trip as well. As I show the time form here, looks to be a pretty fast pace between the 1, 6, and 9. And if she's going to get the jump on horses like Reply and sit right next to horses like Margie's Intention, I'd definitely be willing to take a shot at 4-1 or 9-2 on Amarth. Charlie, moving over to you, you have two horses that, or you have a horse that none of us have anywhere, and that is Reply that I just mentioned. For the local connection in Brittany Russell, this is actually a Rapoli horse for an IRAD hops aboard on this one, which I always find really interesting because obviously Brittany Russell, Sheldon Russell, husband-wife combo that run everything together. IRAD hops aboard on this one. Obviously, IRAD's a very big step up from almost every single jockey in the nation here, in my opinion, other than probably, honestly, Luis Saez and Flavian Pratt. But, man, this horse is going to be hard to trust and definitely is going to have to improve a little bit, but you should get the price and being able to take a shot.
Yeah, I mean, the positives to me are this. She wants, if you watch her replay, she wants every bit of this distance. She should get the pace set up as you showed. It's going to be a fast pace. And I definitely think she can get up for a piece. And I think
sorry, Charlie, real quick to cut you off. My apologies. Stephanie, that's a very good point. I'm thinking about Oaklawn, not Aqueduct. That's my apologies. They do run 1-turn miles at Aqueduct. My sincerest apologies. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, so I was going to say, it looks like she wants every bit of the distance. She should get the setup. I also just like that with only 2 career starts, that she seems like one of the more likely ones in this field eligible to take that step forward and figure necessary to win this race. At an 8-1, I think she's tremendous value. My concerns, though, are with it being Brittany Russell, with it being Rapoli, with it being IRAD aboard. I think this one will probably go off as, probably 4th choice or 3rd. I'd say 3rd or 4th choice, and I'm guessing you're probably getting somewhere closer to 9-2 on this one, maybe 5-1, which I wouldn't like her as much at. I think she is more of an underneath play, but again, in this rendition, it wouldn't surprise me at all if she won. But again, I think she'll like the distance. She'll get the setup. I think she's eligible to take a step forward. I just don't know if she's ready yet to take a step forward to win, but I definitely think she can at least get a piece.
Yeah, and that feels like, I feel like that's the same way for a couple of the other horses. The last 2 horses we'll talk about here. I have the number 5, Kinsey Queen, off that last race at Oaklawn, was very, very visually impressive to me. And if there is a fast pace, she's definitely the one to pick up pieces. And Junior Alvarado hops aboard this horse for Greg Compton. She has every right. I mean, especially off that 83, she has every single right to win this race as much as anyone else in this race. So Kinsey Queen's going to be my second choice in this race, with Margie's Intention in third. Last horse we'll talk about is Paris Lily in here. Pat, look, Godolphin trained, and there's been a couple chatter in here as well that's saying if it's wet, Paris Lily does move up off that last race. So definitely another thing to keep in mind with her.
Yeah, and handicapping this race, you're hoping for improvement, obviously, out of most of the horses that we pick in here, and I think that with the 6, she's gonna be on the front end here, with Joel Rosario aboard, who I'd like to mention was on a heater last weekend to my friends on this show at Aqueduct, Mr. Yes. Freeman, at Aqueduct. He was unbelievable. And I think in this spot, this horse is could get courageous on the front end here, and should appreciate more distance, honestly. So I think is an interesting price, but we do have to wonder about the pace.
And that's exactly what I was going to bring up, because if she does sit on the lead, it's going to be tough from there based on the pace projector. However, again, we always say it, we've seen definitely dumber things. And again, brings up a good point. John Fortwendell, I don't think I've ever seen your name before in here. Appreciate it, John. Thanks so much for joining the show. Her two best efforts have been with Lasix, and of course, in the Black-Eyed Susan, she does not run with Lasix this time. So, John, thanks so much for the comment and greatly appreciate it. And our Stephanie, no worries. I appreciate it. It's been a long couple weeks for the horse racing.
Nothing better than the chat, right, Kyle? They keep us on our toes.
They do keep us on our toes and keep you when you're being an absolute moron. So I do very much appreciate it. Guys, moving into best bets here. Pat, I will let you go first. Wait, race 9, a win on number 6, Pretty Lavish, and a race number 10, win place on number 4, GW's Girl. Can even play that as a double. The possibilities are endless, especially when you like horses 2 races in a row.
Yeah, this, I was trying to play, a pick 3 or a pick 4 in here, but the turf sprint comes up in a perfect spot for us, doesn't it?
And the pick 4 with the turf sprint and the Black-Eyed Susan, which you've mentioned, have been pretty wide open. So taking a couple races in between there is no, like I said, no fault at all.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go in, with a price and Pretty Lavish in the Hilltop. Listen, I explained what my thinking was on her. I'm hoping she gets back to her first race in the Grand Motion barn, as I thought that was a really good late turn of foot she had in that race. And then in the 10th race, GW's Girl. I know, Kyle, you're a little bit you like her a little bit in the Miss Preakness, and I think I'm hoping to get around 8-10 to 1 on her. And see win place. And maybe we'll play some tri-keys with her as well. But this was a fun show and great 6 races we covered.
Oh, yeah. I'm very competitive as well. And look, yeah, you're going to get the price on GW's Girl. I want to shout out another new person in the chat, Dan Duran. Thanks so much for joining the show. Don't think I've seen your name before. Thanks, Triple H crew, for all the info. Hope all have great winning days, and I hope you do as well, Dan, as well as everyone out there. Pat, good luck with your best bets. Charlie, going to you next. Race number 8, a double starting there with the number 3 in that race, who of course is Candide, and with number 8 and 9 in race number 9 in the Hilltop, which is Obesante and Say No More, if that horse does end up running on Saturday.
Yeah, again, I just think Candide
and race number 10, a win on number 6, Stunner. My apologies.
Yeah, no, all good. Yeah, I think Candide just lays over that field. Obviously, we talked about the concerns and questions that there could be, but I think if she runs to her form, I know the figures don't necessarily show up, but you look at the competition and the ability that should be there second off the layoff. Really feels like I said earlier, a get right race, just one to get a win under the belt. And then, yeah, again, I think Obesante is the clear horse to be in that field. That being said, if the 9 gets in, I think you'll get every bit of that 4 to 1, maybe even a little higher, because I just think others in this field, like Me Governor, for example, and Play with Fire, are going to take a lot of money. So that's just kind of, the aspect of just playing into the main favorite and hammering that double, and then getting a little bit of a price with that 9 if the horse does end up staying in the field, is like a little backup double to play. And then going into Stunner, again, Brad Cox, Flavian Pratt has had 2 chances last time where got to the lead and then just couldn't hold off against better, gets the cutback, feels like a spot where if Stunner doesn't win in that race, then when. And so I'm just going to trust Pratt and Cox that, Cox has put her in the right spot here and that Flavian will get the job done.
No, I mean, absolutely. I tried it last time, didn't work out. So I hope it works out for you in this race, Charlie. Good luck with your best bets. And David Ramirez, again, another new person I haven't seen in so long. It says it's been a while. Wishing everyone good luck this weekend. David, greatly appreciate you joining the show and haven't seen your name in a very long time. My best bets, guys, kind of hinted at it a little bit during the show. You could hear my voice pick up a little bit when talking about these ones. Race number 8, guys, to beat Candide, who I've never been that big of a fan of. Could be completely wrong, but I think the price is perfect enough at 6 to 1 morning line with number 5. Sea Dancer, Brittany Russell, trying to get 1 on the Preakness weekend festivities. So looking for number 5 Sea Dancer in race number 8. And in race number 12, guys, I talked about how much I love Phileas Fogg in that race. If there's one time I'm going to try and beat Pyrenees this year, it's going to be this time off the layoff, integrated stake, and off that last race for Phileas Fogg. Going to absolutely go hard on him in that race. But guys, thank you guys all so much for watching. Greatly appreciate it. The viewership has been fantastic, both on X and on YouTube all night long. And again, considering this isn't our normal day of of running a show here at 8 p.m. Eastern. We greatly appreciate everyone that showed up, and thank you to all who are watching this as a replay as well. Tune in tomorrow for Pacific Horseplayers at 9 p.m. and tune in Thursday for the Preakness Late Pick 5 on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern with Howard, Pete, and Paul over on Picks and Ponies. But for my co-hosts, Patrick Kunsel and Charlie Freeman, this is your host, Kyle Roscoe, in episode 130 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering the ALL STAKES Pick6 on Black-Eyed Susan Day at Pimlico. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.